Do you check your phone 40 times in an hour just to see if they replied? Do you reread your last message, wondering if one word in it sounded too much? Do you feel calm for exactly as long as someone is actively reassuring you, and the second they go quiet, your whole body goes on alert? Maybe someone has called you clingy, needy, dramatic. Maybe you've called yourself that too, late at night, hating yourself for caring this much. But here's a question nobody ever asked you. What if that's not who you are? What if it's something that happened to you? Decades of research into how humans bond, starting with a psychologist named John Bowlby in the 1950s, found that some of us learned very early that connection could disappear without warning. And our nervous system built a system to protect us from that. It's called anxious attachment. And it's not a flaw in your personality. It's a strategy your body built to keep you safe. Today we're walking through 7 signs of anxious attachment, the ones almost nobody talks about. And by the end, you might finally understand the why behind a part of yourself you spent years trying to fix. Let's get into it. Sign 1. You read silence like it's a verdict. A message goes unanswered. 10 minutes pass, then 20. And somewhere in your chest, a quiet alarm starts ringing. Did I say something wrong? Are they upset? Did I do too much? Again? Most people experience silence as nothing. An empty gap between 2 messages. You experience it as evidence, proof that something has shifted. Bowlby called the response that follows protest behavior, the instinct to search, reach, and refuse to settle until connection is restored. He observed it in infants separated from a caregiver, but the system he described doesn't switch off when we grow up. It just gets quieter, more adult, more likely to disguise itself as overthinking a text message than as the searching cry of a child. When silence makes your whole body brace for impact, that's not weakness. That's a 70-year-old psychological pattern, still running exactly as designed, just on a phone screen instead of a nursery floor. And that's just the surface, because once that alarm goes off, it doesn't stay quiet for long. Sign 2. You need reassurance, then feel ashamed you asked. You ask, are we okay, for the 3rd time this week. You hate that you asked. You promised yourself you wouldn't ask again. Psychologists Mikulincer and Phillip spent years researching what they call hyperactivating strategies, the things people with anxious attachment do, often without realizing it, to keep an attachment figure close, checking in, seeking reassurance, scanning for any sign of distance. It's not that you don't trust the relationship, it's that some part of you was taught, a long time ago, that closeness has to be maintained constantly, or it disappears. So you ask, and then you spiral about asking. 2 different parts of you at war in the same 5 minutes. That's not insecurity for no reason. That's a system working exactly as hard as it was trained to. But the reassurance seeking isn't even the part that cost you the most. Sign 3. You overgive so they won't leave. You remember their coffee order, their bad day from 3 weeks ago, the thing they mentioned once, in passing, that you never forgot. You show up early. You apologize first, even when it wasn't your fault. You make yourself easy to love because some quiet part of you believes that if you ever become difficult, you'll become optional. This is the trade anxious attachment teaches you to make. I will give more, so you have less reason to go. It feels like generosity, sometimes it is, but underneath it there's often a fear running the show. Not, I want to give, but I have to, or I'll lose this. The real cost isn't what you give, it's that you rarely ask whether you're receiving the same thing back. And when that imbalance finally catches up with you, here's what it usually looks like. Sign 4. You replay conversations looking for proof. The conversation ended hours ago. You're still in it. Not because you're choosing to be, because you can't seem to leave. You replay the tone of their voice, the pause before they answered, the one sentence that might have meant something or might have meant nothing, and you cannot stop turning it over. This isn't the same as the depth or curiosity that comes from an analytical mind. This is your attachment system searching for proof, proof that you're safe, proof that you're still wanted, proof that nothing has changed. The problem is that proof rarely exists in the way you're looking for it. So the search doesn't end. It just runs in the background all day, quietly draining you. Here's where it gets harder to see in yourself, because this next one looks like passion. Sign 5. You pull closer the moment they pull away. They get quiet, busy, a little distant. And instead of giving them space, something in you leans in harder. Couples therapist Sue Johnson, who developed emotionally focused therapy, describes this pattern as a pursue-withdraw cycle. One partner pulls back, the other chases, which makes the first partner pull back further, which makes the chasing more desperate. Around and around. It rarely feels like a strategy in the moment. It feels like you simply have to fix it, right now, before the distance becomes permanent. But that urgency is the same hyperactivating system from sign 2, now aimed directly at the person it's most afraid of losing. Pursuing isn't a character flaw. It's panic wearing the costume of effort. And this next sign might be the most uncomfortable one to admit. Sign 6. You confuse anxiety with chemistry. The relationship that kept you up at night, the one that felt like a roller coaster, electric one day, ice cold the next. You probably remember it as the one where you felt the most alive, the most in love. Psychologist Dorothy Tinov gave a name to this feeling decades ago. Limerence, an intrusive, obsessive intensity that's fueled by uncertainty, not by closeness. The not knowing is what powers it. Secure relationships, by contrast, can feel almost boring at first. Calm, quiet. Less like fireworks, more like a steady room. If you've spent years mistaking anxiety for chemistry, calm can start to feel like something's missing, when really, it's just the first time nothing's actually wrong. Which brings us to the sign most people never even think to question. Sign 7. You don't trust it when it's calm. Someone shows up consistently, they text back without games, they tell you exactly where you stand. And somewhere inside you, a strange thought arrives. This feels off. Not because anything is wrong, because nothing is. And your nervous system was never trained to recognize nothing is wrong as a stable, lasting state. So you wait for the other shoe to drop. You test it, sometimes without meaning to, pulling back slightly just to see if they'll still be there. This is the final, quiet cost of anxious attachment. It doesn't just make chaos painful. It can make peace feel unfamiliar enough to sabotage. The deeper truth. Here's the part that matters more than any of the 7 signs. Attachment styles aren't a life sentence. Psychologist Mary Main, building on Bowlby and Ainsworth's original research, helped identify something researchers now call earned secure attachment, proof that people who grew up anxious, even people with genuinely difficult childhoods, can build real, lasting security later in life. Not by suppressing the anxious parts of themselves, by understanding them. The 7 signs you just heard aren't a diagnosis. They're a map of a system that learned, early, that love had to be chased, maintained, and protected at all costs. That system was trying to keep you close to people you needed. It was never trying to sabotage you. You're not too much. You were never too much. You were a small nervous system, doing the best it could with the information it had. And the most powerful thing you can do now isn't to silence that system, it's to finally understand it. How many of these 7 hit closer than you expected? Tell me the number in the comments. And if this helped you see your own patterns a little more clearly, not as something broken, but as something that makes complete sense once you know the story behind it, then follow Milo. Because understanding your attachment style isn't about fixing yourself. It's about finally being able to read your own mind without translating it through shame.